Okay. So it
Recording
is,
has started, just want to let you know.
thank you. It's 10:01. I will call this meeting to order. Our first order of business is approval of the agenda. I'm sorry, approval of the minutes of the October meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
Yes. So moved.
Aye.
And
Second.
we have a motion to approve. We have who was the second? Becky?
Becky.
Yeah. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, the motion passes. All right.
I'm going to put everybody on mute, Kate, please, because we're getting
Okay.
some background.
Yep, thank you.
You can come back off, members.
Okay. Our first guest today is Brooklyn. And if, see, let's
Okay.
brief update. How are you, so you say about the fiscal 21 audit findings that you are continuing to get guidance. So where do you stand with those?
Yep, we've been emailing, they're actually due into the office next week. So they'll be doing our audit, and then we have a few questions that we're working out on getting that done. We've been working on our policies and procedures manual. We do have one in place. It's just we needed to clean it up a little bit. We have met with WPCA, so we're bringing them in-house. About 75% of it is coming into our office for oversight.
Okay. And Kim, I do see Glenn has arrived.
I did. Thank you.
Okay. I was looking at your year-end reports,
Okay.
and I had a question on, there were a number of overages. I see some significant ones in wages. But my question really is what is your, what's your policy in terms of transfers to resolve overages?
So we do a transfer currently once a year. We actually did it at the last Board of Finance meeting. I just had not implemented it into our program yet to
Okay.
do that, to clear that out.
What kind of reports do you give to your elected officials on a regular basis?
They have the ability of reviewing their reports for their budgets, for their expenditures and revenues, if applicable, in our system. We create them and then they have access to print them monthly.
We have a revenue expense report at every meeting. And then
Okay.
the wages, overage on the wages because of the union contract, and we've been advised not to put in money for that because then the union says it has the money. So we had the contingency to cover that. That was why we had the 60,000 contingency. So that was a planned minus, I guess you would say.
Okay. It concerns me that you only do the transfers once a year. Because how do you keep track and make sure that something is not going so much over that you're going to have a problem, or that this is an item of concern? Would you give consideration to doing transfers on a more frequent basis?
We are open to that. The Board of Finance expressed only wanting to see them once a year, but that doesn't mean we can't guide them to want to do them more frequently.
Okay.
They like to see it. I'm sorry if I'm not speaking for verbatim of it, but she was like, we like to see how the expenses are going exactly without changing the budget amounts. The chair of the Board of Finance, but if we need to offer guidance for another way, we are open to doing that in the finance office.
I think they also have concerns that if you transfer in the middle of the year, then you need more money. According to the policy, we can only do money once a year, or if it's over 20,000, I think, though. There's an issue with that also.
Okay. Right. My other question for you right now, are you quarterly or semi-annual on your taxes?
Quarterly.
Okay. All right. John, do you have any questions? You need to unmute.
Yep.
You're muted. There you go.
Sorry about that. I never seem to get the hang of it. No, I don't have any questions. Thank you very much.
Diane? Diane, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just had to take myself off mute. The only question I have, in looking at your 21-22 budget, and I just saw it like scrolling through here, your workers' comp, there, it looks like there was a credit.
Yes.
Can you explain that, please?
I apologize. I wasn't. Can I look give me 1 second to just take a look at that?
Your expense account has a rather large credit balance. I had seen that too, Diane.
Yeah, and it just, and the other concern I have is it looks like a lot of the benefits are under budgeted. And my question would be, how is that going to be addressed going forward?
Part of
Is there
that is
someone-
related to the labor. As she said before, we're over on all of our labor because we didn't put it in because of the union contract, and so the benefits follow that.
So when you say you didn't put it in because of the union contract, I get, when you're in negotiations, setting aside money for the increase that you think you're going to have to pay when you settle. You don't want to advertise what you think that will be. But once you have settled, why not move those funds where they belong?
Yeah, that makes sense.
We could.
We could definitely do it that way.
Yeah, I'm
But
looking
because
for
we were working on the one transfer a year, we didn't consider it.
Okay.
We can
Okay.
definitely consider that moving forward for that. When you're talking about the report, you mean the unemployment? Is that where I said 15?
No, it was workers' compensation had the year-to-date number was negative, which is kind of unusual for an expense account.
I do not. I apologize. Could you point out the page?
Yeah, it's on page 3 of 15 of your expenditure report for 21-22. Right at the top.
3
with
of
your-
15.
I'm sorry. You know what, Kate?
Is it the wrong town?
I am looking at the wrong town. We'll save that.
Okay,
question
I'm
for
like,
the
I
next
don't
town.
see
There
that
you
page.
go.
Okay, so
Thank
all right,
you.
let's move
Sorry
on then
about
to
that.
Tony. Tony,
I'm
do you have
jumping ahead of myself.
Okay, thank you. I didn't I don't see that. Thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Becky?
I have no questions, Kate.
Glenn?
I have no questions either.
Kim?
I do have questions. One thing that could be helpful for you in going forward when you have the update in the front update, as people are looking at your variances within the report, and I believe that we discussed this at the last meeting about the concerns with the salaries and the salaries being over. It would be helpful maybe even if you just had what your practice is, and then we could always give the recommendation. This way we don't have to go through it every meeting. So it's like, Brooklyn's practice when they did the budget for FY was that we load our salary union contracts into a contingency. So it's just this reminder that this way that's your practice and that's your reason for the variances. So as you explain your variances, I think that would be helpful. And the other item I had a question for you on is, are you fully staffed now?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. I think you had a vacancy last time in an assistant position,
Yeah.
if I
so
recall.
we were fully staffed, technically, like we have the joint services. So we were fully staffed technically on the town side, but now we have the business manager for the school, myself, and then 3 assistants for the office.
Oh, okay. This says 1.5, 1.5. So you're sharing one of the positions.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Very good. That's good news, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We, just so you're aware, committee, that we, OPM staff, we helped the town of Brooklyn with providing them with a sample of policies and procedures to help them move forward with their audit finding that is dated. And we wanted to give them some feedback from another one of our towns that we had assisted. So I think that that could be helpful. I hope you found it to be helpful for you
Yes.
to help resolve that.
Thank you.
And I was glad to hear that it seemed as if you were making some progress on that WPCA situation. That's longstanding.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we're gonna have that under control.
That would be fabulous.
Mhm.
So,
That's
the
it.
other thing that would be helpful is on your fiscal 21 audit findings, is it just the procedures manual that's outstanding? Because without a list of what the findings were, it's hard to know what you've done and where you stand.
Well, the WPCA was outstanding,
Okay.
and the procedures manual, and then just some line adjustment, some adjustments and things like that that we just weren't aware to do that are now working on doing.
Okay. And you're still, as we're getting close to the deadline here,
Yes.
you're still good for going to have it by the 31st?
So far, that's what they're saying. So we'll see. Probably the end of this week, they'll give me a better idea to know if they will need an extension or not.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing well. So that's good.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's move on to Derby.
Look at that. Yeah, you're doing well.
Kate,
If you need-
I just need to point out that Derby's a client.
Yep. Thank you, Glenn. So thought I saw Chief of Staff here. Who else do we have from Derby?
Mayor
Okay.
Zekin.
Thank you.
Deputy Finance Director.
All right. So
I believe the
staffing.
superintendent and the business manager are here too,
Oh, that's good.
from the Board of Ed.
So you're going to look to pay a little bit more for your finance director. Have you put that out there yet? Has it been advertised? Anybody?
No, not yet. We're still in the process of doing the analysis for that. We have some data from CCM, but we are also going through some data from the government finance group that does the actual postings for hirings to do a comparative analysis to that as well. CCM is a good indicator to start with, but the actual hiring that's taking place within the state is, I think, a much better indicator. And we have a number of those that we have to sift through to find out how they relate to our particular situation. But I would say right now, we're probably looking at having to have a salary of about 125,000 from the analysis we've done so far. But again, that's not the final number yet. We hope to be able to finish that by the end of the year and then make a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen on establishing a salary so that we could begin to advertise. And then we also need to get money from the vote to pay for the advertising.
Understood. Okay. All right, I'm gonna just scroll down. Okay. So we've got, looks like still a couple funds that don't have double entry accounting. Where do we?
One. Only the library.
Only the library. Okay, the student activity fund and the athletic fund are good?
That would be Robbie.
Okay.
No, we are not good yet.
Okay. You need to get that done. That's, those student activity funds are just ripe for misuse if there's no proper accounting. This again is also Board of Ed. The comment made on your partially implemented corrective action plan. It says you're making progress with making sure employees or invoices are received as close to fiscal year end as possible. Remaining invoices will be moved to the following year as a liability if products and services have not been received in a timely manner. Are you using purchase orders?
We are.
Okay. So you'll be encumbering them, and what is your kind of cutoff? What do you consider timely manner?
So our cutoff right now has been September 30th. We want to bump that up to August 31st.
Okay.
We've had some issues with receiving invoices, whether they've been sent via snail mail or they've been sent to not our accounts payable, and they kind of just sit. So working to clean that up and have everything sent to accounts payable versus a secretary signing up for or buying or purchasing a service or product, having all invoices go to accounts payable versus the individual making the order.
Okay. All right. That's good. All right. Property taxes, you were a little behind. Was there a specific reason? Looks like you didn't collect as much as you had budgeted.
Are we talking current year?
I'm talking 21, 22. Shows you budgeted 31.2 million and collected 30.9.
Yep. Yeah, there's about 300,000 off, but that was, honestly, that was a pretty good perspective for us for performance wise.
Compared to the assumption you made in your mill rate, when you set the mill rate.
Yeah, we set the mill rate, and we have used a 99% collection rate as our expected rate of collection for probably well over a decade now. And it usually comes in within that 1% range like you're talking about.
So are you budgeting the full levy?
We are budgeting 99% of the full levy.
Okay. And so you're not hitting that.
Uncollectible.
Do you think you need to maybe reduce your assumptions?
Well, we're going to take a look at it when we start to put together the budget this year.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to try to do something more like a rolling average. The problem with this COVID is in the middle of that rolling average, so you might have to kind of skirt around it, if you will, and exclude the COVID years to get a valid comparison.
Yep. Okay. All right. Diane, you want to ask your question on workers' comp now?
Sure, now that we're there. I guess last year, 21, 22, there were mostly in your employee benefits, you have a credit of 788,000 in your workers' comp line item. And then some of your other health benefits don't look like they've been budgeted appropriately. So what is being done to make sure that's going forward, that's going to be more accurate?
Nancy, you out there? Do you want to deal with that, or do you want me to deal with it?
We're still dealing, part of my voice, getting over a cold. We're still dealing with closing entries. A lot of those numbers aren't correct. They have to be reclassed. We have to go to the board, the vote to get some transfers made to finish our closing entries for the year. So even though that number is there, excuse me, we are working closely with the insurance companies as well as looking at the numbers to make sure that we actually properly project out where we're going to be this year. Keep in mind, we had a lot of transition with our staff, and we're doing a year's worth of work in 3 months. So
okay,
we should be all set. I'm working with John, our auditor, to make sure that we get everything properly allocated, and he's actually been a great assistance to me, and I feel very comfortable that we'll be complete by the end of December.
That's great, but a credit balance that is 4 times the size of the budget in an expense account is a huge red flag. How do you end up with a credit balance in an expense account?
Are we talking 21, 22 again?
We're talking 21, 22.
Okay, so 21, 22 was a difficult year in that was the year where we had the interim finance director and all that kind of stuff before anybody was on board. if we take a look, and I'll go back and I'll drill down on this with Nancy. If we take a look at our current performance, I think that's more of an indicator of where we are. And we changed our workers' comp coverage primarily because we weren't happy with some of these kinds of results. So we are in the process of meeting with them on a regular basis. I think we have a meeting coming up with them next week regarding performance on the claims, because as you know, we're self-insured. So that's important for us to keep our finger on the pulse with that.
Okay, with all due respect, and this is an expense account. The normal transaction is you debit the expense and you credit cash. You have credited the expense.
That was actually one entry.
So there's something horribly wrong here and should not need to meet with the auditors to recognize that errors have been made. It might be a timing difference where maybe you got reimbursement for a workers' comp claim that was incurred in a prior year, but it shouldn't be posted here. So that's just not good accounting.
Yeah,
So,
if I could just
we
sort of pitch in
understand
there, it seems like an error, not a monitoring problem. And did this spike up when you were monitoring it during the year?
Well, it may very well be an error in the accounting process. But again, the people who are here now weren't present during that budget year. So we're trying to work with the auditor to see if there's any underlying reason for why that took place, or whether it was simply somebody just messed it up when they were posting the accounts and didn't do it properly.
Okay. It
Yeah,
just, it's
no, we
something that,
understand it's significant, yes.
okay. All right. So sorry, Diane, I jumped in on
That's
your,
okay. That's okay.
you're all
All
good.
good questions. Mhm.
John, did you have anything else?
No,
Tony?
no, nothing else.
I do have a question. If you could just talk a little bit about, I noticed you have an RFP out, or you're preparing an RFP for a new financial system.
Yeah,
And at the same time, you're looking for a finance director.
yeah,
Could you talk a little bit about that timeline and,
sure.
do you have, I'm hoping you're
Yep.
going to get the finance director before you put the financial system in.
Well, that would be nice, but here's the problem with that. First of all, Nancy has extensive experience in municipal financial accounting, well over 20 years. I have over 30 years of financial software development experience. I think we're properly prepared to move forward with an RFP. Once we get the RFP in, we've been told that as long as we can get an RFP out and resolved by the end of first quarter, that it was still a doable thing to convert. And that's given we've had conversations with a few vendors on the conversion effort and what it would take. And also the changeover of our existing chart of accounts to the OPM recommended chart of accounts.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah,
okay.
we definitely want to do that. I think everybody was afraid to touch the chart of accounts because there's been so much movement back and forth in the finance department. But we look at it from this point of view. If we have a standard, and obviously there is a standard, and we adopt the standard, then it works for everybody from now until whenever, as opposed to it's very difficult at times, to be perfectly honest, to find some expenses the way they're categorized within the existing financial system because of the way the chart of accounts work.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely want to clear that up.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just hopefully have the staff to be able to carry on with all your regular duties and accomplish that at the same time.
Right, and part of the transition that we have sitting in our special working balance is the realization that we may need to bring in some outside help to do that.
Yeah.
Whether that's additional financial people that we bring in on a contract basis, or whether we make more resources allocated out to the company doing the conversion, which is another possibility. So we're open to that, but there's money in the special working balance to accompany that kind of a transition.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, I was muted. Becky, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, Kate.
That mute button's a killer, isn't it?
It is. It is. Kim, what about you?
I do. I just want to bring to the attention of this board as well as the town is that the workman comp issue when we met in October is still pending, and that was brought to your attention at that time. So I do think that it is important that that gets addressed sooner than later. It does impact your year-end numbers.
Mhm.
And so it didn't get any attention as of yet. One of the other items that for me, that's important is the fact that you are able, while you have three important conflicting things all at the same time, and then I think that you have to be able to prioritize what's the most important. Fiscal year 22 has to be a high priority for you to close that year because you have a history of not closing it even a year later. And so that is a really heavy lift on that on your current administration with a vacancy. And I do want to I would rather hear that you have completed your audit before completing a system change versus and filling the finance position and making sure that your infrastructure is solid before you would go in and as Tody had mentioned, that to make sure you have the staff to do this. That what are your thoughts about that?
I think we can do
Well-
both right now. We'll see how it works out as we get farther along in the process. I agree with the priorities, closing out the books and getting the finance director. I don't think the finance director is an absolute necessity to do the conversion. I think we might be able to start the conversion and bring them in. But again, if we're looking at an April timeframe, right, for the conversion, hopefully we have a finance director on board by the time we start that.
Yeah, I think where the finance director is going to be important is, some of the things Tony said, just setting up your system, making sure that things are carefully thought out.
Mhm.
I know what it was like to come into a job and somebody who really didn't know what they were doing had put the software in, and going and making corrections after the fact can be done, but it's a whole lot easier if you can start off with all the people who are involved, having input.
Yeah, and I agree with that assessment, and it's very likely that will take place. But what I'm saying is if it doesn't take place,
You think
I
you're
don't
good?
think we're gonna worry about it. And if we need to, we'll go out and contract, for additional help or advisory help or whatever it might be. I know the auditor's been great in meeting with us about different issues. And I'm sure we can find another CPA firm that would, for the right price, I'm sure, come in with all the guidance we need.
Kim, do you have anything else?
The other item is the audit findings that you have, which is 11 of them. And based on the timeline of the dates that you have included, many of them still show that they're open. And based on fiscal year 22, they looks as if they've been resolved in 23. If I did a quick analysis, and it would be helpful if maybe you added a column, tell me what is really closed and what was the date that they had closed. I know it says that it says a target date is what's been completed, and then you have a column that says fully implemented. So to me, based on the date that it was either saying fully implemented or targeted, it's all in 23. So it looks as if none of these have been resolved for 22's audit. If I was to take a look at it, is that a fair assessment?
Well, the audit findings are based on 21, 22, right?
No. These
No,
are
they haven't audited
2021.
22. These are 21s. And some of these go
2021?
back many years. Yes.
I'd have to review it. We changed everything over to the new format.
Yep.
that
And
you
so the
guys had
number,
requested.
yeah, the
And-
number, just so you're aware, Walt, the number in front of the finding number, 21-1, that's the fiscal year that the finding was
20 to
issued.
21, gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah.
I think there's a confusion in the dates when they were put in. A lot of these were actually implemented during the last quarter of 2022. And I think that just looking at it, I'm saying that more than half of them were actually implemented and complete by 22. So
can you
most of
update
it
that
is-
schedule for us?
Yep, we'll do that.
to-
Okay.
Thank you.
I had one more question, the same one I had asked Brooklyn about the transfer process. What is your process? Do you do transfers on a regular basis? Do you wait till year end? Because looking
City
at your,
charter doesn't give us any choice in the matter. That's one of the issues that comes up pretty regularly. We are not allowed to overexpend a single line item within a department. It must go back to the vote in order to get a transfer approved.
but to who?
Board of Apportionment and Taxation.
Okay, but so you have, at June 30th, according to your reports, you've got a whole bunch of overages.
Mhm. And the problem with that is that the process wasn't being followed by the department heads, and they all got an email telling them that in the future, they needed to make sure that they had, well, a couple things. One is, our finance system didn't kick out people who put in a PO that was beyond their budget. Crazy as it may seem, that is exactly the truth, okay? So we complained, that was changed. So now you cannot issue a PO for more than what's in your budget. Therefore, you have to request the transfer. The transfer request comes to the finance department and then is posted for the vote's action on their monthly meeting. So that's the process, and transfers should take place on a monthly basis. Unfortunately, in the city of Derby, the Board of Apportionment and Taxation failed to have a quorum for 3 months in a row. And so, that's a good look right there. I agree with that look. And so what we had to do is we kept putting things off, and we finally got a quorum at the last meeting and had more than should ever be on one meeting for approval to be transferred. But we
Okay.
were able to work it all through and get it set up, so
Sounds like you have multiple challenges there.
we do.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Yeah. If you could update that schedule for us.
Yeah,
and
we'll do that.
I
We'll
think
do it this week and get it back
we'd
to
like
you.
to hear what's going on with that workers' comp account.
Yep.
Make sure that gets squared away, because that, like I said, that's, something red flag there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well,
Okay.
it affects our bottom line, right? I mean, we say that there's X amount of money in the fund balance and there may not be.
Well, honestly, for me, it's not about the impact on the bottom line. It's the fact that that's big. That shouldn't happen. First year accounting students should know that that doesn't happen. And so when you see that kind of it stands out, what else is wrong?
Right.
Okay. So that's why, it's
Yep.
of such concern.
We agree. We'll get to the
Absolutely.
bottom of it, but it's not the people who were there. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yep.
All right. I guess we are on to Hamden.
Kate, I do want to make you aware that Bill Plummer and I had a meeting with the superintendent and the business manager to talk to them about, that there was some initial discussions about possibly having the two have one person as a finance director, and that's not the case, is what I'm hearing at this moment. But we did have a good conversation and about that, as well as the upcoming audit.
Okay.
Yeah, there were a number of items that the city was interested in exploring when it came to consolidation of operations. Those discussions didn't take place, so each entity is moving forward on its own with its own practices. So.
Right, because that was part of the discussion last time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
How's that, Doc? Was that polite enough?
Okay.
All right, we good?
We're good. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Hamden.
Good morning.
Good morning. Maybe we could start with, my last name is B-U-C-H, not
Oh, I'm
B-U-S-H.
sorry. I've been putting that in there wrong. I apologize.
Thanks.
I'll
I sometimes think I shouldn't have bothered taking my husband's name because it's harder to spell than my maiden name was.
We're sorry about that.
Yeah.
get that corrected moving forward. So I'm Lauren Garrett, Mayor of Hamden, and I'm here with Curtis Eatman, Finance Director. And I'll just get started on the agenda, if that's all right.
Actually, if you just let us, we might be able to ask our questions and
Okay.
get along more quickly.
No problem.
My first one was looking at your audit status, and you're talking about your tax collection rate. So based on what you found from 21-22 on the tax collection, how is that impacting your planning for 24?
Okay, so the budgeted tax collection rate for fiscal year 22 is 98.8. The actuals came in at 98.7. That 0.1% being off in our actual tax collection rate is about $2.4 million. So being off just a little bit has a very significant impact. So our fiscal year 23 tax collection rate was set at 97.7. We were quite conservative, so this will create an operational surplus for us. I think that it's important for us to look at what we've seen in the past and be a little bit under what our actuals look like. So possibly the 97.7 was a little bit too conservative, but I wouldn't want to be entirely too optimistic with our tax collection rate that we set. This gets set by the council, so I would encourage them to go with maybe something around 98.5. But I think that we've got to look at a few years rather than just fiscal year 22.
Yeah, maybe take a look at your history and do some kind of averaging.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So you saved 1.4 million on general government expenses. Was there anything in particular that stood out as, under budgeted or that you did well on?
Well, it's not good, but we have had a few vacancies.
Yes.
So we saved in our salaries. We're trying to hire, it's mostly police and fire. And we've had pretty good success, but we're seeing the same thing that a lot of other municipalities are seeing. People are retiring, and it's been a challenge to hire at that same rate that they're retiring.
I feel like we can't keep, every time we get to the full complement, somebody retires.
Well,
we're back out there looking.
Yeah, we aren't quite at that full complement. We're down about probably 10 firefighters and 14 police officers.
Wow.
So we're seeing savings in salaries.
Not in a good way, though.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Looking for the rest of my questions. Okay. I saw you passed the fund balance policy. That's good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Passed it in February.
I had a question on that. You
Go ahead.
said you were striving to a plan to get there. Where are you, and when do you expect to get there?
So our audit should be completed December 15th. They are almost finished,
Yes.
so ahead of schedule, which is unique for Hamden. And preliminary numbers are in at $14.1 million right now, which is the largest fund balance we've ever had. And our debt restructuring, the plan is called the Fund Balance Restoration Plan, but it's really because we've done some debt restructuring. And we have one last restructuring to do this coming summer. That will be the end of our debt restructuring. And so with all of that, we should be at about 22, 23 million, around there, within the next couple of years.
Which is what percent?
Can you have it?
With
Looks like it's gonna be about 4, maybe 5.
But it's beyond. And so we have 14.1, which is about 5%. Add another that we'll get to about the 7 to 8% that we're looking for. If you look at the fund balance policy, that's where we're trying to get the minimum over 7%.
Okay. Thank you.
So if you hadn't had the building sale, where would you be?
The building sale did not contribute to our fund balance. The 14.1 million that we have right now in the fund balance.
Okay.
The sale of Wintergreen did not contribute to that. What we've done with the sale of Wintergreen is divided it up between the town and the Board of Education, put it into capital non-recurring funds so that we can use it on maintenance to the town. The Board of Ed hasn't given us a plan yet on how they want to spend those funds. We should be seeing that within the next month. The town spent most of ours already on building improvements, road paving, fire trucks, and the like.
So looking at your revenue report, the 17 million, 17.5 million under miscellaneous, that wasn't the sale of the building?
16 was the sale of the building.
16.
So
But
you said it went into the capital, because I'm showing it in.
So it's already been transferred into
Okay.
capital.
Yeah, that's
Transferred it out, okay.
at the end of the 22 year. So we accounted for it in that way as a falling down. But after that, we passed legislation, council passed legislation to appropriate it into a capital now reoccurring account.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yes.
All right. John, do you have any questions?
No further. No
Okay.
further.
Tony?
Actually, I just had a quick follow-up on that fund balance question. I like the history. Actually, that was a very interesting chart you put in there about the history of the fund balance and the percentage. Do you get the sense that after having this discussion that people understand the importance of having a fund balance and that the budgeting decisions will be made to make sure, to try to limit sort of the erosion of that fund balance in terms of, conservative estimates and stuff like that?
Well, I know that I understand it and the council understands it. Whether or not the general public will understand it is another question. We've done a lot of work in educating people about the need for our fund balance and the financial implications of spending it down and not having that protection. We've also tried to explain that because our fund balance is growing and it's more healthy than it's ever been, that it's contributing to our credit rating agencies taking notice of that and making decisions based off of that. So we'll continue to provide that education, but I know just like with the state of Connecticut that you hear people say, you shouldn't have a rainy day fund that's that strong and it means that taxes are too high. We'll hear some of that, but we're not going to make decisions based on that because I think that we understand the significance of the fund balance.
That's great. I think your point about the public outreach is a good one because I myself hear that on occasion. I'm sure we all do at some point. And
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Diane?
No questions, Kate. Thank you.
Becky?
No questions, Kate.
Glenn?
Just a really kind of quick conceptual. I was glad to hear you say that this year was the last of the restructurings that the town was doing. I was going to just ask you if there were any more property sales on the horizon that are being counted on to help fund that fund balance, or at least help with the budgeting, and as well as what was the general outlook for capital borrowing in the upcoming year?
Sure. So we've made some progress on some of our hiring. We've hired a pension accountant, which was one of the audit findings, or a solution for one of the audit findings. We've also hired a grants and capital projects manager. And so we feel like our capital projects will be better managed through that position. Now, we do have some assets that we will be selling in the future. We received $8.6 million from the state of Connecticut to build a new firehouse in Southern Hamden. Once that is built, we will be able to offload the firehouse that they are currently using. We also, as part of our ARPA plan, are consolidating a lot of the services that we have into a new community center, which means that some of our other buildings that are currently used, 2 branch libraries, our current very small community center, will be able to get sold and use the proceeds of those sales to put more money into the capital non-recurring fund so that we can better manage our capital needs. We do have significant capital needs, though. I think that we put a lot towards what had been kind of neglected over the past several years. The capital budget that was approved this fall was the first in 5 years, the first comprehensive capital budget in 5 years, which means that we know that a lot was neglected over the last 5 years. So we need to do a little bit more work in our capital planning. We've asked department heads to put together their needs, and so we're working through that. And as part of our operational budget for fiscal year 24, we will be producing our capital plan, capital budget. So it's all in the works right now.
And lastly, Commissioner, if I may, Mayor, we have one more debt restructuring plan for the summer, for the summer of 2023. That will be the concluding end of our debt restructuring plan to get our fund balance up to over $21 million. Historically, you have seen that we have been able to have operational surplus that we didn't have to allow that to drop, and we're confident that we're going to be able to reach that $21 million with the last restructuring coming this summer.
Yes,
So
this coming summer, not last summer.
This coming summer, yes.
No, thank you very much. It sounds like you've got things planned going forward.
With the buildings that you're planning to sell, have you done some kind of market analysis so you know what to expect?
Not yet.
Okay.
No.
And I think we'd probably love to see the capital plan when you do your budget at the next meeting or whenever it's done. Kim, you have questions?
Yes. It sounds like you're doing a lot of good work. I'm glad to hear about the fund balance situation, and that you're just not looking at things in the short term, that you're really planning out and looking at things in the long term, which I think is really important. I believe that when Hamden first came about, we had asked for a 5-year plan. I'm wondering if that has been updated since, and if that you're using that tool. And if not, maybe you want to dust it off and update those, because then you can see where your numbers are heading for in a longer plan for yourself.
Yes, thank you. So we developed a 5-year plan as part of our budget last spring, and we will be doing that again so that we can see if we're on track and make sure that the public and the council knows where we're at and where we're going.
Perfect. If you could share that with this committee, that would be very helpful.
Sure. I think it probably won't be ready until March. So maybe not the next meeting, but the meeting after.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Was that it, Kim?
That is it.
Okay. All right. I think you guys are really, you've made great progress, and I like the commitment. Is it, how do I ask this? Like, Mayor, if you were not there, is there a commitment on your board to this direction that you're going?
On the legislative council,
Yeah.
I think that some members understand more than others. I know that I'm really driving the financial education. And I would say that there are other members on the Legislative Council who really get it. We have a member who is, he's an auditor for the federal government. And so he certainly gets it. We're fortunate to have him.
Yes.
And there's another member who has his MBA, and he really gets it as well. He's been there for a while. So there are definitely members who advocate for our needs and the direction that we're going. But I think that it's important that we have leadership in the mayor's office who really understand it very well as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just want to make sure that it becomes kind of built in, in the community, that it survives from
Yes.
administration to administration. Okay, that's great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got Plymouth next.
For the record, Plymouth is a Milliman client.
Thank you, Becky. Okay. Looking at your update here, first question I have is your property taxes so far this year. How are you looking, compared to prior years? Are you on target? Are you where you expect to be?
We are on target, yes. Tax collection over the last few years has been pretty steady, and we're looking at the same at the moment. So we are on track.
All righty. And I saw...
I'm sorry, may I just make a quick introduction?
Absolutely.
Yes, Vicki Carey, Vice Chair of our Board of Finance, is also here. So I know that was an ongoing question. You would like to see some involvement from Board of Finance, or at least to be able to make sure that they're aware of what's going on. So I did invite our Vice Chair here to the meeting, and she is graciously attended. So just wanted to make that quick introduction.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I see it looks like it says your cash receipts are recorded through October. And sorry. Trying to turn down the volume on my phone. Where we stand with bank recs?
Well, as of this writing, we were 2/3 of the way through on all our smaller ones and through February on our general fund. We are now through June on our general fund with some cleanup entries needed.
Okay, that's good progress. And you got to keep current.
Yes.
Because bank recs can reveal issues, so that needs to be kept up to date.
Kate, may I ask for clarity?
Yes.
Are you stating now that all bank recs are up to date? This is what I'm hearing through June 30th of 22.
Correct.
With some minor,
Well,
things
that's
that they
not
have
up
to
to
go
date
with.
though, Kim.
Not talking about the entries, right? Just as long as the reconciliations have been completed is the first key. So if
Right.
that's been completed, that was a heavy lift. So I
was a heavy lift.
appreciate that you.
The general
But they're
fund-
still not done. They should be.
Right, I understand.
Through
Some of
October.
our smaller bank accounts, like a third, less than a third, we have to complete
To date.
to June 30th. And then the plan is, once we've completed to June 30th, so we're ready for the audit, while the audit's going on, is to get us up to date.
Okay, so they're not through June 30th at this moment, not all of them. Small
The
accounts.
general fund is. Some
Okay.
of our minor accounts still need to be brought up to date. We have less than a third of our minor accounts still
Okay.
need to be brought up to June. I'm sorry. Yes, we keep
Okay.
using up to date.
Right.
But that's where we are.
Just following up on that comment, because believe me, I understand how difficult it is to catch up bank recs from the past. But in terms of not number of accounts, because I understand there's probably some really tiny ones, but as far as coverage of the dollars, where are we?
The
Well-
majority. has
The
been
major-
Reconciled, yes.
Well, if our general fund has been reconciled to June, that's
Yeah, that's the
a very
majority.
healthy percentage of dollars.
So when you say smaller accounts, are they $1,000 accounts, $50,000 accounts?
Yeah. Is it a high school, student record, or
Yeah,
is it
like those accounts.
or something
exactly.
more?
Yeah, like some CDs, just that where we have to record the interest, that kind
Okay.
of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So not ones that have a large volume of transactions or are vulnerable.
No, we prioritize the larger accounts to get as close to caught up as we could by this meeting. And we'll continue to do that as well. Because we obviously submitted the plan for filing of our next audit. So to get as close to that timeline as possible and to meet that target, obviously you need to prioritize the larger accounts, and that's what we did. So.
Okay. And let me ask you the question I was asking other towns, seeing year-to-date budgets are over in some places. What's your transfer practice or policy?
So anything under $1,000, the director of finance can do. Anything over that would need approval from Board of Finance to make a transfer.
And
do you do that on a regular basis?
yes, we've started doing that on a regular basis. We're still in the close process, and we do need to bring our transfers to the Board of Finance next week. As a matter of fact, is the Board of Finance meeting for the transfer approval.
Obviously, if there's an emergency expenditure like oil, gas, those kind of, we need to keep the heat on. So if those go over, those kinds of things. But anything that can wait to get approval for a transfer, we are now in the process of making sure the Board of Finance sees it before it's actually done.
Okay. All right. John, did you have any other questions? Tony?
No questions, thank you.
Diane? Glenn?
None.
Becky? I know they're a
None.
client, but you can ask.
No.
Kim? Don't disappoint me, Kim.
Kim always has a question.
Really, it's going to be about the audit of FY22 and the timeline. That's really where my focus is, and making sure that you do get that management letter from your audit firm, because if you have findings in 21 that need your attention, you're not able to begin to work on them for 22 if you don't know what it is. Now, hopefully, they've at least communicated with you where the areas are that they think that you would need to focus. I'm sure it has to be bank reconciliations. That would be an automatic to me. But I think that it would be helpful, even if they didn't put pen to paper, that they would at least verbally communicate with you so you can put some attention there. I know you have a lot of attention at this moment, but an awareness is better than a surprise.
Yes.
I've been in close communication with our auditors, and yes, we've had those communications as to what's going on, and they assure me, other than the bank recs, that, being up to date, that there are minor comments.
Okay.
And also, we met with the auditors because obviously we wanted to present to you a realistic timeline on our fiscal 22. We don't want to say, oh, January, but knowing full well it was going to be March or the spring. So
thank you.
I made it very clear to them that don't overpromise and underdeliver. We wanted to put a realistic timeline forward so that we can, hold each other accountable moving forward. And so that's what we're going to do. That's why I think we proposed a reasonable timeline based on where we are. And we have every intention of meeting that and then never being late again.
So you have the staff accountant in a temporary.
Yes.
What's your plan going forward? Do you feel, are you going to be staffing appropriately so that you don't get behind again?
So I honestly, based on the performance and how much progress they made over the last 2 months, I actually think, and the best they could probably, once we get caught up, maintain if we had 3.5. But the reality is, everyone knows with the workforce as it is, it's hard to find somebody qualified to do anything part-time. So that's frankly a decision that, the Board of Finance and the Town Council are going to have to make. Do we say we're going to keep the 4 because it's working and gives us a little bit of a cushion potentially? Or do we try to go to 3.5? Right now, 4, we've been catching up and you've seen the progress we've made. Once we get caught up, what level of staffing is required to maintain it once we're caught up? That's really going to be an ongoing conversation, like I said, with the Board of Finance and Council, but they're going to be very well. I'm going to give them all the facts and certainly advocate for the position. At least something. I think 3 was definitely under, just based on if you lose somebody for an extended period of time, which we did, then you get very far behind. So you need to have a little bit of a cushion. I guess the question is how much.
Okay.
Well, also, anytime you have projects, any kind of projects, you need a person to be able to put on that. I think you're just looking at this part of the financial end of it. But okay, you have the Board of Ed that is still there. How are they operating? How is that working? And taking a look at other projects that haven't had attention. You can be guaranteed if bank recs fell back that far, that you have other things that need attention.
Of course, of course.
And maybe there's some opportunity for sharing with the Board of Ed.
I have, without mentioning too many details, there have been some ongoing discussions, not just in finance, but in other areas as well, to try to share where we can. Obviously, if you're going to add staff somewhere, then that you either raise revenue or you find other savings elsewhere. So trying to walk that fine line is what we're trying to do. And the Board of Ed has been very cooperative, and hopefully we'll find some areas of savings, as well as pursuing shared services with other surrounding towns as well. I'm in ongoing discussions with some surrounding mayors and first selectmen as well. So we're trying to take an all of the above approach.
Okay. Good. And you've currently got a spending freeze because your electric rates are going up.
Well, that was more of a preemptive move. We certainly didn't budget for the 40 to 50% increase they're suggesting. So to make sure that we're not in a position in, mid to late spring where we're scrambling, I would rather preemptively do this over the winter and then in the spring, have a better snapshot of where we are and release funds as needed.
Do you have any capability of changing providers?
Something our public works director is looking at as we speak.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have other questions?
No.
Okay. I'm really happy to see the progress on the bank accounts, but it's got to be kept up. So we'll be looking forward to seeing where you stand with your audit at the next meeting and with the bank recs. Okay.
Sounds like a plan. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you
for your attention with this.
Thank you for your feedback. Happy holidays.
Okay. Next up, looks like the list of our delinquent audit reports.
Yes.
Just want to say, wow.
Yeah.
Do we have any updates from any of them as to, when we might expect them or what's going on?
We did get some updates. We asked each of those towns, but I was hesitant to put anything in because they've given us a lot of assurances that they've fallen through. And I believe Kim and I were considering meeting with a couple of the towns that we believe there's some additional concerns as to when it will be submitted.
Yep.
But this is a larger list than
you've ever experienced.
Years, yes.
I know, Bill, I know
in as far as how late they are.
Yeah, it just.
I know we've discussed this, but there are some chronic
Yes, defenders.
Clearly there's something wrong. If you, every year you're,
Well, yeah, and every year it's not like, I mean, Branford, what the heck has happened there? They went from being 2 months late every year, but now to a year late. But
Right.
looking at like Andover and you know, Derby, New Haven, these
Mhm.
are big time late all the time. So
yeah.
And one
East
one
Lyme.
thing that we would want to
East
bring
Lyme.
to your attention is that with the new legislation, all of these folks would be required, are listed to then have to report to the MFAC. So at least if it's a one-time effect, we could make that decision. But if it's an ongoing effect, then this would this is a trigger that there's something wrong in their financial infrastructure.
yeah,
And
and
we-
and it's just looking at things like these
How,
are
yeah.
not towns that I mean, some of them are smaller, but not to pick on Danbury, but what the heck? I mean, they're a big city. They, in Branford, I mean,
Yeah.
these are people that, and you respect, and like, I don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah, over the years, the people that haven't made it in time have gone like 3 or 4 for a couple of months to like 20, and some of them for well over a year. And I don't know what it is. I'm glad you're doing that study. I know
Yeah.
I know municipal reporting has gotten more complicated and complex,
You're right.
but still, I mean, people have had time to. I can't understand it.
I mean, while this is a long list, how many other towns managed to get their audit in on time?
Well,
Uh, the majority still do,
Yeah.
fortunately. And
So-
we even have some 22 reports already.
But if you can't get if I mean, people used to get their reports in by the end of September and October. And
Okay, well,
and
that's just a bit much.
December. Yeah, I know that became more difficult as you ended up with multiple bases of accounting and can't do anymore and single audits. But if you can't get an audit report in 8-9 months or over a year, then you have no control really over what you're trying to manage with.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just
It
scary
doesn't
the
make
things
any
that can go
difference that
wrong.
150 are getting it in on time.
Yeah.
Right.
Tim, quick question. Are these towns and cities, are they aware that with the new legislation that everything would change and they would have to come to this commission?
They've been informed.
Okay.
We've definitely put in a meeting out, I'm sorry, a communication out to everybody. And in addition to that, many of these towns we have met with about their lateness, and they've given us a promise. So we plan to do another follow-up. I am aware of West Haven's situation because they're part of the MARB. The good thing is that he's doing the audit firm is doing 2 years at once. So I hope that they'll get back on track sooner than later with what happened there.
Just want to say I never filed late when I was in West Haven.
We never filed late either when I was in West Haven.
But are they giving you reasons? I know this is the study you're going to do, but
Bill, is Danbury the town we met with? We did, right?
Yeah, yes, that is.
Danbury
that
had a
was little bit
changeover.
sensitive.
It was sensitive. They had a changeover of hands, and so that one is in limbo. Even though we did get a promise of when they would be able to. I asked them. Yeah, there's something going on with that.
Oh, okay. But still, they were 148 days late last year and 30 a month late. It's not like this is new.
Right.
Yeah, I'd just be curious, like, are there not enough audit firms?
Well, in a couple of cases, a couple of towns, it seems like it's been with the, there's a technical review team at the audit firm, and I don't know if there's been, so it's been kind of held up in that realm. But I mean, the original cause was the town.
Blade
and
of
now
information.
it's- Right, and yeah, so it's, now it's like a combination where there's, you know.
Yeah. Okay. I had one question on your memo about, the work plan, right?
Sure.
You have a checklist. I
We're
was-
Yeah, we're in the process of developing a checklist,
Right, so
and
what
we
I
were
wanted-
working with Clifton Larson and Allen. And I want to give credit to Bill on pulling all of this together. I cannot take credit for this. He really is putting his arms around, paying attention to the the delay that is coming in with these reports, and what can we do better, and knowing that we have a new system that's coming in for new criteria for MFAC and MARB, that okay, can we do a better job of providing them with a little bit more tools? We would love to get your feedback on the checklist once we have something developed before it goes live.
Yeah. My question had been, were you going to run any of the ideas by auditors? And if you're working with Clifton Larson, clearly you are. So
we are. They're helping us develop it.
Okay, that's good.
They seem to have an end product that they give to their clients as to what they need when they're coming in. So what we want to say, okay, if you need that, okay, what should they have been doing during the year to be able to provide that? So it's, we're working kind of back.
Okay.
And then if we get this checklist, maybe it will be also helpful for all of us of, okay, what are those areas that are that they haven't focused on, if we have the checklist for them to refer to for this committee.
So you're developing a list of the most common reasons. Are we just looking at what they submit on their extension request, or are we actually going to talk to the towns that are late and say, what else? Not just what you've told us when you asked, but, with, like anonymous, tell us what's really going on so that we have an idea of the issues that are out there.
I think it's a combination because several of the that audit firm that we're consulting with does a lot of these audits. So they have a good view as to what the holdup has been, but yeah, we should probably consult with a couple of the towns.
Yeah, because I think, there's the official reason you put on the extension request, but there might be some underlying things that if they, don't have to put their name to it, that they might be willing to share with us as to the challenges they're facing that make it difficult to get it done on time, especially the chronic ones.
Yeah, the chronic ones, and my mind is, some of it has to do just a lack of priority.
Yeah. Well, and that can be systemic when, if your elected officials don't understand the importance of it. All right.
The next item in here is the calendar.
Yeah. Do we have to vote on it? Yeah, I guess we do.
We do. So
Does
we can
anybody
post
have any
it.
issues with them?
I have a conflict with one date, but that's okay. Just one.
Okay.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the calendar?
I'll move that.
Second?
Thank you. Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right. And well, John,
Aye.
this is
I
your
wish-
last meeting with us?
Yes, I wish somebody could tell me what governor was there when I first came on.
I was Jody Rell.
Uh,
I think you were on when I joined.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
You might have been like Ella.
No, I don't think so.
It just thank you for all your years of hard work, and we'll miss you.
You're welcome, even if I never seem to get the mute unmute on just Microsoft Teams to work properly.
We don't even think about that with you being on this board. You have big shoes to, we have big shoes to fill, and we will definitely miss your demeanor, your humor, all of it, and just so level-headed that it's great.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, but all good things.
All good
All
things.
things. This too, shall pass.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So
moved.
moved.
Second? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you all very much and enjoy the holiday season.
You too.
Enjoy your
You too.
holidays.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, John.
John, have a good holiday.